Welcome to Breathe California TV. Each week we present a program to help you protect the health of your lungs. Today we're going to be talking about housing. We're in critical shortage on housing in California. And if you're wondering why that ties to lung health, here in Santa Clara Valley and Santa Cruz County, people are driving 50, 60, 70 miles because there isn't any housing available near where they work. And that's 85% of our air pollution. So getting more housing is a big priority for us. We'll be talking with a housing expert in about 30 seconds. So come back and join us.
It's given me a chance to go out and be with people who has the same problem. And it helps you to manage your life better too, because you hear different things from each person. And it's just been really helpful in many ways.
Welcome back. This is Breathe California TV. If anything in this program excites you, we always need volunteers. Give the Breathe California office a call at 408-998-5865. And if you need any information that Jennifer Svec of the California Realtors Association doesn't give you, go to our website, which is under my title, which is lungsrus.org. So Jennifer is a governmental advocate in Sacramento for the California Realtors Association. Thank you very much for joining us. Why don't you start out, and I think almost everybody in our audience knows what a realtor is, but what does the Realtors Association do?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to participate today. Very much appreciate the opportunity to share my expertise with your audience. The California Association of Realtors specializes in a variety of opportunities. Most importantly, what I'm here to focus on is opportunities to create ownership within the state of California and to create familial wealth for individuals and their families. Specifically, we're interested in creating more generational wealth. In order to do that, we need to make sure that home ownership opportunities continue to be available for families of all incomes. Specifically, our concern is that, as you note, air quality is an issue. Most people have to drive until they can afford. Sometimes, as you note, that can be anywhere up to an hour and a half commute. In some cases, 2 hours. The days since COVID have changed the look and feel of our communities and the way in which we work. So there's more opportunities for remote work. But as we continue to return to the workplace, we're seeing hybrid environments where people are returning to the office, and they may even have longer commutes from where they moved to during the COVID pandemic from the drive till you can afford activity. We've seen a lot of that mobility from the Bay Area. Used to be 2 hours, now you're looking at 3 and 4 hours. The California Association of Realtors is interested in creating more opportunities on the supply side for ownership. Well, there was recently a Cal Matters article that highlighted the home ownership crisis that we're now experiencing in the state, where only 17% of families can afford to purchase a medium-priced home in California, which has reached over $800,000.
I apologize for interrupting you, but I don't have enough income to buy the house that I live in. It's a glorious comment on housing prices going up and making me appear to be richer, but it's pretty doggone discouraging. My daughter's renting a house next door with decent jobs, and they can't afford housing in the area.
Exactly. And that is one of the problems that we face is, how do we bridge that gap? How do we create those opportunities? I certainly can't afford the house that I now live in that I bought in 2016 because it's appreciated due simply to the fact that we have a constriction on supply that's limited by both investor purchasers as well as a constriction by local governments and builders to work together to construct more housing in the state. C.A.R. was proud to work with the Pro Tem last year to create the California Dream for All program, which creates a 40% down payment assistance opportunity that is an equity sharing opportunity for families, where when the home is sold or refinanced, the individual will give 20% of their equity to the state of California in exchange for borrowing money, like I said, up to 40% of their down payment for the purchase of their home, which we're pretty excited to see move forward. We'll be working this year with Pro Tem to try to secure additional funds for that program as well. It's called the California Dream for All program. It's over at the California Housing Finance Agency. They're right now working to put the program together so that it's operational in early 2023. We're hoping to see it online by January, if at all possible. I know that they're working really hard over there. C.A.R. has been a leader in this conversation and in this space for many, many years. And I would say that we got into the housing crisis over time. This didn't happen to us overnight. It started in the 60s when we started seeing constrictions on development. And our opportunity to be able to find our way free of the housing supply crisis that we're currently in, which is create an ownership crisis, is going to be a slow process to repair. I don't see a silver bullet in our future to be able to fix the problem, because we're also facing struggles where we see market rate housing that's affordable to our entry-level families being purchased by investors and converted into rental housing. So we're not seeing the same opportunities available to my colleagues or to my children that were once available 10 or 15 years ago, as the investment market has really played a major role. And when I say investors, I mean large-scale investors. We're talking REITs, we're talking affordable housing developers that buy market rate housing and then convert it to deed-restricted rental housing to assure that it won't be available to homeowners on a go-forward basis. These are all things that are of concern, especially in light of the fact that we are now starting to see a very apparent homeownership crisis moving forward. It's been about supply, but now it's definitely about homeownership, because we're swapping the deck chairs, but we're not building enough new.
So C.A.R. is proud of being one of the supporters of a $400 million program to help people afford housing. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we had $500 million put into a program over at Cal FHA. That was the program I just mentioned a few moments ago. It's called the California Dream for All program, with Cal FHA is who's administering it. There's a variety of other programs that are available at Cal FHA that I would like to point your viewers to, that offer opportunities for down payment assistance based on what your income qualifications are. They have programs for up to 80% of the area median income. So individuals that make 80% or below what your area median income is. The California Dream for All program is available to families making up to 150% of the area median income. They've got some other programs over there that are rate buy downs and other opportunities to assist families use their programs. In addition, obviously, you've got the traditional VA programs and Cal Vet programs that are out there, but Cal FHA really does focus on getting first-time home buyers into housing to try to create generational wealth for families of all shapes and sizes.
So there's been a lot of publicity in the last week with Governor Newsom and financial officials in the state saying, we just don't have the money that we did last year. Are these programs threatened for reduction because the state needing to scale back what it did in the current budget?
It's unclear. What we do know right now is the Legislative Analyst's Office is predicting a $25 billion shortfall on the budget. This is of great concern to the programs that we started to establish last year. The Pro Tem is hoping to get $1 billion infusion into the California Dream for All program over the next 10 years. So that'd be a total of $10 billion. The governor will release his next budget in January. It'll be mid to late January. We'll see what the reality of our budget shortfall is going to be and which programs can be affected most. We have every hope, since the governor did give us the seed money to start this new Dream for All program over at CalFHA, that we're very hopeful that we'll be able to see another infusion this coming year, but we won't know any more until January. And in that conversation, I mean, there may be opportunities to repurpose funds from other programs potentially to try to help bolster the California Dream for All program, which can be very beneficial to members of the community that you live in, due to the fact that you are in a high cost area with a lot of students as well. And that creates another type of housing crisis, where you're looking for opportunities to house not just families, but you're also looking for student housing as well. And this is an opportunity for families to work together to create those generational wealth opportunities.
So C.R.A. sponsored a large number of bills. You listed in your annual report 17 that you were pleased to see defeated, and a good number of bills that were signed into law. Last year, there was a lot of controversy over bills from Senator Wiener. Do you think they're being effective in making a difference on our housing problems? You know, in my city, I don't know of a single residential lot that's been split to make a second lot.
So that bill that you're referencing was actually sponsored by the pro tem of the California State Senate, Senator Atkins.
Tony Atkins, yeah.
Yeah, she's a stalwart when we're looking at housing opportunities, and specifically she's looking to facilitate ownership housing opportunities. We do know that there's complications with the implementation of SB 9, which is the bill that you're referencing about lot splits, and the opportunity to reduce the number of units per lot in exchange for that lot split by an owner occupant only. I think that's the important thing to note when you're looking at SB 9, which was enacted last year. The bill allows for developers to create a duplex in an existing home, but it only permits homeowners to be able to split a lot if it's beneficial to them and their family, and that opportunity to create generational wealth if it fits within specific parameters set out within the bill. I haven't heard of a lot of instances where SB 9 has been used. There's a couple of issues. One is implementation on the local level through ordinance. A lot of ordinances take time. They don't just happen overnight. Just like state law, they can take anywhere from 3 months to 3 years sometimes to work out, because they get introduced over and over again. The other issue is we've heard of some title concerns with respect to creating those lot split opportunities. I think it'll be some time before we find out whether or not SB 9 was a success. But SB 9 was not predicted to be a silver bullet, and it was not predicted to create an immense number of units statewide. The Turner Center had noted that it is a what do they call it, an arrow in the quiver, but not the bomb, I guess. I don't really know how to put that, but it's one piece to the pie, but definitely not the end all solution to the supply crisis that we're facing. Senator Wiener's bills. He last year had sponsored a bill that C.A.R. kind of was back and forth on. We supported it originally, and then we opposed it, and then we supported it again because it created issues with title and opportunity to create condominiums throughout the state of California. SB 10 in the end turned into a measure that C.A.R. was able to support because it authorized local governments, but didn't mandate local governments to create opportunities that would facilitate condos and multifamily properties within infill sites. But again, it gave tools to the local governments. It didn't force local governments, which is, I think, a big difference. I think you'll see an evolution in the legislature. There's 40% changeover from the elected officials that we had last year to what are coming in next year. And so it's really unclear as to what we're going to see legislatively in 2023. This is probably the first time, no, not probably, this is the first time since 2012 that we have seen a change in the legislature's makeup as vast as we're seeing now. Prior to 2012, we had term limits, but they were set up a little bit differently. And so there was more of a rotating alteration that was happening. And then before those term limits were put into place, we didn't have term limits at all, so you never saw any changes. But since 2012, when we instituted the 12-year terms instead of the 6 years for the Assembly and 8 years for the Senate, and allowing someone to serve all 12 in either the Senate or the Assembly or any combination of the two, We've seen a lot more stability in the membership of the legislature, except during the pandemic. We did have quite a few resignations over the last 2-year period. I heard anecdotally we had somewhere between 20 special elections throughout the state of California last year. And you add to those new members that came into the legislature in the middle of the session last year, plus the 40% that have changed over as the result of our most recent election. It's really hard to predict what's going to happen next year. My crystal ball is broken.
Yeah, well, I think that's quite reasonable. I think the bottom line is something you said earlier, which is we're not going to come up with the 2 million housing units that Newsom wants overnight. It's got to be a gradual change and encouragement. One of the things I wanted to talk about is the governor had a press conference, and I didn't look through your list of bills to see whether you were pro or con, but it allowed industrial business zone buildings to be used for housing. Think that's gonna be a biggie, or is it just more a matter of a whole series of things?
I think it's just, again, one more tool in the tool chest for us to be able to use. Again, due to the COVID pandemic, we've seen a change in use of structures or the lack of use for commercial structures and some manufacturing. There are opportunities for us to convert existing commercial structures into what we're hoping are condos. There will be obviously opportunities to convert those into apartments as well. My members specifically, again, realtors are really interested in people having a hold within the community, and it's necessary for the foundational interests of the community that when people own, they have more pride and investment, and they spend more time in their community, more money in their community. They have the opportunity to stay close to home. You have more familial camaraderie where you go to community events and participate in your local sporting events and spend more time together. SB 6, which is one of the adaptive reuse bills, and Assemblymember Wicks had another bill as well, 2011. They will be great changes and great opportunities because they also make sure that they don't touch your single family neighborhoods. They specifically focus on multifamily parcels or commercial parcels. And those are areas that are already geared to with the infrastructure necessary to have large scale developments that can be able to host these larger structures than what our single family neighborhoods can host. C.A.R. was proud to support both measures. In fact, we were extremely active in SB 6 by Senator Caballero, who we would like to thank for her leadership in this space as well, along with Assemblymember Wicks, who was the chair of the Assembly Housing Committee. They've both been instrumental in having this conversation and trying to find a way to use structures not being used to their highest and best use, and to allow those property owners of those parcels to have alternate choices. These are not big scary changes to the law as some would think, but really they're more reasonable opportunities to use buildings instead of allowing them to continue to melt by not having any occupancy.
So we've been talking with Jennifer Svec of the California Realtors Association. Give us 30 seconds for another public service announcement, and then Jennifer will join me to discuss anything that we might do to put a bigger dent in the housing problems we have. Come back in 30 seconds.
What it feels like to have an asthma attack is, well, you can't breathe and you can't tell anybody that you're having an asthma attack because you can hardly talk. You can maybe say 1 or 2 words, but you can't say much else. Breathe California has helped me come in contact with more asthmatics and more people who have the same case as I do. It's important to me because I don't feel like I'm alone in the fight against asthma.
Welcome back. This is Breathe California TV. Our guest today is Jennifer Svec of the California Realtors Association. They've been a major player in trying to address housing issues in our state, and it's hard to know anything about house prices and not feel like that isn't a big issue. My two daughters, one's a school teacher and the other runs an art gallery, and their two combined incomes can't get them within laughable range of buying a house. And I'm afraid that's true for a lot of the state's population. So CRA, or just your own thoughts on ways that we can put a significant dent in our housing deficit?
Well, we know we're anywhere between 2.5 and 3.5 million units short of what we need to satisfy demand. That does not include what we need to keep up with demand. On average, we know that the state of California's developers are able to construct anywhere between 80 to 111,000 new units every year. If we wanted to actually make up the difference between what we need and what we're actually building, we need to build somewhere between 200 and 300,000 units annually. We're just not seeing that as an opportunity, especially in our current environment, especially with also having rising interest rates in addition to high housing prices. It'll be really interesting to see what happens in the coming months with the supply crunch as we move forward. There should be hopefully some movement to create additional units next year. The accessory dwelling unit space has been very productive in creating generational living opportunities where you can have, say, your daughters or your mother or your father be able to live close in an ADU in the backyard and have their own space and opportunity to thrive, and then have your family with children. In my case, I have 4 children and a husband living in the main unit, so that you can have that generational space, but also have enough separation that you have a happy family. I know that my family and my parents would love that opportunity to be able to live even closer to their grandchildren and have that opportunity to spend time cultivating them, but while also having that opportunity to escape my children at the same time. I mean, there are 4 of them. All grandparents need a respite. And so I don't really know that I have any words of wisdom or things to share as the silver bullet for next year that'll be considered. It'll be a really interesting conversation going forward as to what solutions are brought forward. I think with SB 6 and AB 2011 moving forward this year for creating that adaptive reuse space, the legislature is going to be hard pressed, I think, to do anything monumental next year. They may need to take a bit of a respite. I know that one of the issues that we face is the opportunity to buy our way out of the housing crisis, which would require an immense amount of tax imposition on the people of California. And I don't think that the people of California are prepared for that either. If they were to try to buy their way out of the housing crisis, it's extraordinarily expensive to build what we call deed restricted affordable housing. In LA, it costs upwards of $800 to $1 million per unit to construct subsidized housing, which is a pretty big price tag when you're looking at trying to subsidize that on a statewide level. I look forward to seeing what proposals are brought forward, but again, it's really hard with the influx of legislators coming in who are just now looking to pick up their staffs and will be installed on December 5th in Sacramento. Until we start seeing their early bill packages, predicting what may come out next year is going to be tough. From C.A.R. standpoint, our main goal is to try to facilitate more opportunities for families to bridge the wealth gap and achieve home ownership, and to create that supply of entry-level housing that we so desperately need. And quite frankly, we lost a lot of it during the Great Recession to investor purchases and big, large-scale REITs like people know about Blackstone. Blackstone continues to be a very large player within the space of housing and buying those entry-level homes. And I think that is one of the greatest hurdles that our families face, is even homes that are affordable to families, they're not able to reach them because they just can't compete with these large-scale investors.
Pretty tough stuff. I'm the endorsement chair for an organization that only is allowed to handle local government races in Santa Clara County. And housing was a very big issue for us. I would like you to correct me on this, but 10 to 20 years ago, the legislature passed a law that had the state actually the local association of governments allocating housing units to cities. In my case, Palo Alto was supposed to come up with 6,086 units, and my council adopted a plan to do that last Monday. That law is what, 10, 20 years old?
Probably 30 or 40, actually.
Something happened. I assume they came up with a decent enforcement mechanism, because I thought cities laughed at it before.
They did. So the housing element law has been in place for, I believe it's somewhere around 40 years. It combines with your general plans, and your general plans are important for planning how the industrial districts, business districts, and housing zoning works. And then from your general plan, where you sort of figure out generally where you're going to place things within a community and how you're going to fund and create infrastructure opportunities. There's a housing element that allocates the amount of resources or housing units that you need to fund or to allow the workforce to be able to live and commute to their jobs. The problem that we have seen is, as you know, local governments didn't really pay much attention to the housing element. What they did was they submitted them to HCD. They were either accepted or rejected, but regardless of whether they were
HCD is a state housing agency.
Right, it's the Housing and Community Development Department, and they would accept or reject these documents, and then the cities would move on to their next planning cycle, which happens every 8 years. Over the last, I would say, 5 or 6 years, the state legislature has put more what we call teeth into the housing element law by requiring local governments to actually submit and get approval of their housing elements in order to receive funding from their housing allocations. Otherwise, local governments will see reduced funding if they don't actually submit a valid housing element that does appropriate planning.
So you have every reason to continue with that, but my director wants us to wrap up. So you have about 30 seconds to summarize what your audience ought to know about the issues we've been talking about.
Well, again, I appreciate the opportunity for being here. Representing the California Association of Realtors has been a dream of mine since I was a little girl. I very much enjoy the opportunity to look out for families of all shapes and sizes, and the opportunity to create wealth and income opportunities, as well as intergenerational wealth. The California Association of Realtors is instrumental in representing homeowners in the state of California, as well as realtors, and specifically strives to make sure that everybody can afford to have a piece of the California dream, and that would be home ownership. It is vitally important to us as well to protect Prop 13 and to continue those opportunities going forward, and making sure that you can remain here with your family, and that your grandchildren and your daughters can find those opportunities. And we'll continue to fight the good fight for you. And if you can ever we can ever be of assistance to you, please don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Jennifer, thank you very much, and thanks to C.R.A. for loaning you to us for a while. Good luck.
I'm going to need it. Thank you.
Okay.